Quality is everyone's business, and it's one of those phrases that feels complete in the moment it is spoken, right? Yet in practice, quality is frequently treated as a function, a department, or sometimes as a checklist. Once a quality team or section is appointed, something happens. There's always a movement in ownership or change in ownership with regards to who exactly is responsible for quality in the workplace. Yeah, we shouldn't forget, with all those changes, people still care. There's that concern and realization that yes, we need to improve quality is always there. Right things are always said. The right actions also sometimes efforts are made towards implementing them. And yet quality becomes something that is managed rather than embodied into the organization. In my experience, this is where the first misunderstanding begins with that phrase of quality is everyone's business. Why? Because quality does not fail because people stop caring. It actually fails because responsibility becomes abstract. People don't really know what to do or how to do it. So when quality is framed as everyone's business without being anchored in decision-making authority, it slowly becomes no one's responsibility. And also when the organization doesn't notice this early on or immediately, what you see is quality collapses overnight or it drifts to something else. One of the most important lessons that I've learned is quality really fails loudly at first. Normally it's sort of slow. You notice a bit of bends and stretches here and there, actions that are pointing for you to sense what is happening. You see a bit of weight, small delays here and there. Sometimes you notice certain decisions are made in isolation. All these acts are signals or senses that point to an issue of quality, that there's something happening with your quality culture or quality system. There are other situations where you find your timeline, people are rushing to do stuff, not following laid out timelines. But there's always a justification for, shortcuts or special issues. Risk is something that is always deferred or not taken seriously or addressed. And you notice that every decision that everybody wants to make makes sense in its own. And it's important to be clear. None of this is meant to be harmful or is intended to be harmful, but it's just the urgency of dealing with quality issues doesn't really come across, as you see now. Until one day, quality shows up as a major incident in the form of probably a recall or a customer complaint or a breach in regulation or a reputational risk. That is when you see the issue of quality coming. And what you always hear is people did not actually see this coming. And that brings surprises and reveals that everything is not everybody's business in the organization. And in those situations, quality is often treated as an outcome and not as a responsibility embedded in decision making and judgment within the organization.